Good evening and welcome to the regular May 11th Glendale Commission on the Status of Women meeting. Ms. Haddad, may we have roll?
Commissioner Katafian, Commissioner Lamel,
Here.
Vice Chair Manasarian,
Here.
Commissioner Malakian,
Here.
Commissioner Marakat,
Here.
Commissioner Pillsbury, Commissioner Sobey,
Here.
Commissioner Walker, Chair Devine.
Here. Next item, please.
A brief introduction regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for the May 11th, 2009 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall on or before May 8th, 2009.
Thank you. Next item.
Did you wish to take item 3 out of order?
We can do that. I have one card for oral communication. Rosie Akopian.
Good evening, Chair Devine, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Rosie Akopian. I'm a Human Resources Analyst for the City of Glendale, and I'm here today to extend our gratitude on behalf of my department and the rest of the city for your Commission's support for an event that occurred on April 23rd, which was Bring Your Daughters and Sons to Work Day. It was a very successful, very entertaining, and fun event supported by many of our departments as well as your commission. So I just wanted to give you a brief listing of the departments that also, contributed to our success and the organizations that helped me put the event together with the assistance of Lana Haddad, who's also co-assisting me in this endeavor every year. So the departments were, our Parks and Recreation Department, Management Services, GTV 6, Public Works, Glendale Water and Power, the Glendale Police Department, the Glendale Fire Department, the Public Library, and our Community Development and Housing Department with their Verdugo Job Center. These were all departments that either had a part in the fun fair that we held for the kids after the council chambers presentations that we held, or they contributed somehow. Organizations that actually assisted me to be able to have some funding for this were also all of our employee associations, so we're really grateful to them. So the Police, Fire, City Employees Association, and the Management Association helped out. And some of our presenters were our Councilman Dave Weaver. Bob McFall did a great presentation on careers with the city. Mario Yagoda from the Police Department talked about law enforcement careers, and then Lana and I did a interactive presentation on how to interview for a job. The kids had a really good time with that, and our fire chief spoke to the children, and so did our city clerk about civic duty and elections. So overall, I've gotten a lot of wonderful feedback. I think it was a successful event. So again, I want to thank you for your support of this event, and next year will be held again sometime in late April, and we'll let you know about it then as well.
Well, congratulations. It sounds like it was a wonderful event. How many children did you have that day?
I had about 135 that actually, signed up to participate. Not all of them come to the presentation portion in the council chambers, which I'm kind of glad because we would have maxed out the capacity. But it was standing room only crowd, so I think we had at least 100 people in here,
Wonderful.
If not more.
And you certainly got support from a lot of the city of departments, and that's
Absolutely.
fabulous.
Yeah, and without them,
Great.
we couldn't do this event.
Everyone is special in its own right. Yes. Well, we anytime you need help, you just you know where to come. We're here for
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next item.
Agenda item is 2, introductions and presentations. Item 2A, Ms. Yasmin Beers, here to introduce to you Christine Babumian of Management Services.
Good evening, Chair Devine, members of the Commission. Yasmin Beers, Deputy City Manager. It's with mixed emotions that we basically inform you, and I know most all of you know this, that Lana Haddad will be going to Glendale Water and Power. She's accepted a position as their administrative analyst doing legislative work come July 1st. So we're in a bit of a transitionary period at this time. Lana has brought a lot of professionalism and integrity to the position. She started with the Commission when the Commission actually started 5 years ago, and we will miss her sorely. but we're very happy that she's still part of the city family. So it's very exciting for us that she's staying still within the city of Glendale. So thank you for all of your hard work with the commission, Lana. You still have, about 6 weeks to go, so still please, work through Lana with all of your requests, and she'll be here for us through July 1st, and she will be working in the transitionary period with Christine Babumian, who will be taking over the commission's staffing duties. Christine Babumian has a background in psychology. She received her bachelor's degree from UCLA. She's worked for the City of Glendale for the past year, a little over a year, in our office in management services, working with the City Council, the Mayor, and the City Manager and all of our staff regarding constituent complaints, special projects, a lot of analytical reports as they come forward. So she has a lot of experience in terms of the city processes here at Glendale. Her background in terms of her work history, she was a teacher for a period of time, a claims manager, and an executive assistant. So her background is a bit varied, and her skills and her knowledge and her different perspective, I would say, in terms of what she brings to the table for the Commission on the Status of Women will be nice to watch. And I think the challenges before her and the opportunities for professional growth will be wonderful as well. So with that, I introduce to Christine Babumian, who is here this evening to meet all of you. Come on up, Christine.
Chair Devine, members of the Commission, I just wanted to introduce myself and say hello. I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I look forward to working with each of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We welcome you, and you have some big shoes to fill. But I'm sure you're capable and willing to do the best that you can. So we're looking forward to working with you as well. Thank you. Next item.
Agenda item 2B is Dr. Manuel Momjian, who is a family medicine physician at Glendale Memorial, and he is here to talk about osteoporosis and you. After all, May is Bone Health Awareness Month. Dr. Momjian, thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Manuel Momjian. I'm a family medicine physician here in Glendale, California. I want to first start out by thanking everyone in the Commission for inviting me here to speak on this topic. I think osteoporosis is very, very important, and most people don't know enough about it. I'm really interested in treating chronic illnesses with nutrition and trying to avoid medications, and that's really what attracted me to osteoporosis, because it's really a disease process that can be largely prevented with the right diet and exercise. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit of detail right now. So I want to first start out by defining what osteoporosis is. Osteoporosis is a condition of decreased bone mass. This leads to fragile bones, which are at an increased risk for fractures. On the slide here, you'll see a picture of normal bone right next to bone with osteoporosis. Bone with osteoporosis is much like a house that's been infected with termites. It's thin, frail, and it fractures easily. I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of osteoporosis to give you a perspective of how recent our knowledge is about this disease. In 1830s, a French pathologist by the name of Jean Lobstein noticed some patients' bones were riddled with larger than normal holes, and he coined the term osteoporosis, which means porous bone. In the 1940s, Fuller Albright defined postmenopausal osteoporosis and started treating patients with estrogen. In the 1960s, researchers developed sensitive tests for detecting bone loss. And as early as 1984, the National Institute of Health publicized this disease, and soon thereafter came medications for the treatment of osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is really a relatively new disease. It's only been around in the medical community for about 25 years, and our treatments that we're using now have only been around for about 10 years. Even though it's new, osteoporosis in America is a major threat. It threatens at least 44 million people over the age of 50 years old. 10 million people are estimated to have osteoporosis, and 80% of those are women. Another 34 million have low bone mass, also placing them at risk for fractures. 50% of women and 25% of men over the age of 50 will have some kind of osteoporosis-related fracture in their lives. So that's pretty significant. Another chilling statistic is that women's hip fracture risk equals her combined risk of breast, uterine, and ovarian cancer. What does that mean? That means that we all need to be screened for osteoporosis. We get our pap smears and our mammograms yearly, but we need to make sure that we talk to our doctors about screening for osteoporosis. I want to just talk a little bit about bones. Bones are alive. They're living in your body. They're composed of various things, principally collagen, which is a protein that gives bones their flexibility, calcium phosphate, which is a part of the structure of bone that makes it very strong. Bones also have living cells that help to withdraw a dead bone and deposit new bone. Our bones grow stronger with a good diet and exercise, and this is a really a key point that I'm going to talk about a couple times during this presentation. When we have a diet that has a daily recommended amounts of vitamin D and calcium, as well as exercise, we can really prevent osteoporosis, and we really need to start with our children. Calcium equals bone strength. So the amount of calcium that we have in our bones is directly proportional to how strong our bones are. Our bones are not the only place where calcium is found. Calcium is also found everywhere in the body, but it's used by our muscles, by our nerves, and when we don't have enough calcium around, we actually go and get more from our bones. And so we need to make sure that we have enough bone mass to be able to sustain losses in bone that just come with daily activity, and make sure that we have enough calcium in our diet to do that. This slide is titled Peak Bone Mass, which is the most dense that your bones will ever become, and that usually happens at the age of about 30. So your skeleton loses old bone and forms new bone constantly. Children and teenagers form new bone faster than they lose old bone, and you see in the picture as the child grows, gains more and more bone, and then at the age of 30, it peaks, and then it's downhill after that. So everyone's going to start losing bone after 30, including men. But women have it worse because after menopause, they have a rapid loss. It's estimated that a woman will lose up to 20% of their bone mass 5 to 7 years after menopause. So that's very, very significant, and we need to screen as much as possible. What is the endpoint of osteoporosis? It's fracturing, and the most common breaks in weak bones are the wrist, the spine, and the hips. The hip fractures are by far the most dangerous, but wrist fractures and spine fractures can alert us to underlying osteoporosis. Wrist fractures can be very painful and can require long-term casting and maybe even surgery. Spine fractures can cause severe back pain, cause height changes. It can cause spinal deformities like kyphosis, where our backs start hunching over. But hip fractures, like I said before, are the most dangerous, and it's estimated that 24% of people will actually die after the first year after their hip fracture, and 15% of patients who had hip fractures will have difficulty walking across a room without assistance after 6 months. So what's the good news? That osteoporosis can be prevented at all ages, and like I said, we should start early with our kids, but not to forget us as well, because we need to prevent our own osteoporosis from happening. Risk factors. What's important about risk factors? Well, this tells us when we need to go see our doctor to see if we need screening for osteoporosis. The most important risk factor is age. Everyone will have osteoporosis if they live long enough. So that's why all women over the age of 65 and all men over the age of 70 should get screening for osteoporosis regardless of any other risk factors. Other risk factors include broken bones after the age of 50, family history of osteoporosis, smoking, being underweight, that means having a weight of less than 127 pounds, poor calcium and vitamin D intake, excessive alcohol intake, early menopause, poor physical activity, other medical conditions such as hyperthyroidism, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, COPD, and also taking certain medications like steroids such as prednisone, chemotherapy, thyroid medications, and anti-seizure medications. So what if I have risk factors? So the first thing you should do is ask your doctor if you have risk factors to see if you should get bone mineral density testing. And what's the most common bone mineral density testing? It's a DEXA scan, and it's a non-invasive test that's done in about 10 or 15 minutes. You don't have to take any of your clothes off, or no one sticks a needle in you. It's much like getting an X-ray. So it's very safe and easy to do. The DEXA scan will tell us if we have normal bone mineral density, if we have osteopenia, or if we have osteoporosis. So your bone mineral density testing will compare you to someone who is a normal 30-year-old with peak bone mass, which means that you're being compared to someone who's completely normal. And the score that you get is represented in a number called the T-score. And your T-score will either be above or below normal. So examples are, if you have normal bone mineral density, your score will be between 1 and -1. If you have low bone mineral density or osteopenia, your score would be between -1.5 and -2.5. If your T-score is less than -2.5, you have a diagnosis of osteoporosis. Once your doctor diagnoses you with osteopenia or osteoporosis, he's going to probably recommend some kind of treatment program for you. Today I'm not going to talk about the treatments because I don't have enough time, but what I really want to focus on is prevention. And so how to prevent osteoporosis, it's with calcium, with vitamin D, with daily exercise, stop smoking, and to limit your alcohol intake. What are the calcium requirements vary by age. If you take a look here at the red arrow, that's the age group of 9 to 18 years old, and our calcium requirements are the most during that age, 1,300 milligrams a day. What does that tell us? That tells us that we really need to get our kids to take in enough calcium, because that's going to determine how much bone they have later on in life. So that's very, very important. And then another important number is the individuals over 50 years old, and they also need more calcium at 1,200 milligrams a day. And so calcium can be found in many different things, but most commonly found in dairy products. It can also be found in fortified cereals and juices. You should really talk to your doctor and find out if you need to supplement with more calcium, because it's very, very important. Also, vitamin D, your requirements of vitamin D increase as you get older. And right now, the minimum daily requirements are between 400 and 600 international units a day. It's more closer to 600 if you're over 65 or 70. But there's a new push by the National Osteoporosis Foundation and many other organizations to increase the amount of vitamin D in our diets. We should be getting somewhere closer to 800 to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin D a day. And vitamin D, it's really made by your skin when you're out in the sunlight, but some of us can't get out in the sun that often, so we need to supplement with more vitamin D in our diets. So again, if you think that you're not getting enough vitamin D, please talk to your doctor about vitamin D. There's a simple blood test that they can do, and they can determine whether you're deficient in vitamin D, and there's supplementation for that. One other thing that I wanted to just mention briefly was a walking project that I'm involved with in Glendale. It's 30 minutes of walking, and we meet on the corner of Brandon Glen Oaks. It's in the northeast corner. At 12 p.m. every Thursday, and we'd like to invite everyone to come out and join us. It's really to exercise and to promote health in the community. And for more information, you can call my office at the SC Physician Group at 818-662-7000. And you can also find more information online if you want to research yourself, which I strongly encourage. There's a great website, the National Osteoporosis Foundation, www.nof.org. And also another great website is, or actually the Surgeon General's report on bone health and osteoporosis is very good. So I would take a look at www.surgeongeneral.gov. Just in case if you guys would want to get more information about osteoporosis, I will be giving a presentation at the Glendale Memorial Hospital Auditorium at 12 o'clock on June 9th. For anyone who's interested, they can contact my office and get more information. I can take any questions if you guys have.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions from the desk? Commissioner Sobey?
Dr. Momjian, does taking the D also help the body be able to handle the calcium? Is that why those two things go together?
Great question. Very, very good question. So, actually, you cannot absorb calcium without enough vitamin D. So, I'm very glad you brought that up. So we definitely need to make sure that we get enough vitamin D in our diets so that we can absorb the amount of calcium that we need, which is quite a bit. And so your question is very, very good.
And also, is it true that we can't take our 1,200 milligrams of calcium all at once, that we have to spread it out a little bit, let's say 2 times?
Very good question. So you're absolutely correct. So I recommend that people take their calcium supplementation small doses throughout the day. It's absorbed. Only a percentage of it is absorbed at a time, and so it's better if you take it in small doses throughout the day. And it really depends on what kind of calcium supplement you're using, whether it's calcium citrate or calcium carbonate. Because if you're taking calcium citrate, you could pretty much take it any time during the day. If you're taking calcium carbonate, you should be taking that with a meal because the acid in your stomach helps you digest the calcium. And I'm also going to be talking a lot more about calcium and vitamin D during my presentation on June 9th, if you guys are interested.
So, doctor, then you don't have to take the citrate with food, the calcium citrate.
At this point, no. There's no recommendations that you need to take calcium citrate with any food.
Okay.
Calcium citrate is more expensive, and that's one of the perks. That's what you pay for, I guess. So, you don't need to take it with food. The calcium carbonate, it's recommended that you do take it with food.
Also, one quick question about the D. I know 400 is very low. My doctor's talking about 1,200.
Yeah, a lot of right now the word on the street is that we need to supplement up to 1,000. Sometimes 1,200. You know what? It really depends on the patient. I think that if you're worried, you should definitely go in and get a blood test to find out what your vitamin D levels are, and then they can make recommendations on supplementation that would be appropriate for you.
Is it possible to OD on vitamin D?
Yes, it is. It is. So you don't want to take too much. That's why I said you should always discuss that with your physician. I appreciate your questions, Commissioner.
Doctor, I have a question about vitamin D. Is there another way that you can get that vitamin through foods?
Sure. There's a lot of different ways you can get vitamin D. So fish has a lot of vitamin D. Different types of green leafy vegetables have vitamin D, and cow's milk and dairy products in general have lots of vitamin D. So, and those are, cow's milk is actually fortified with vitamin D, and we should be drinking low-fat or non-fat milk. It's all fortified. You don't have to drink the vitamin D stuff with the red label. That's got a lot of saturated fat in it.
What do you suggest for a vegan population?
For the vegan population, well, if you're for people who are vegan, calcium is a big problem because if you're not going to drink your dairy products, then you definitely need to get enough supplementation with supplements. But you have to be very careful. And actually, getting enough calcium and vitamin D is tricky because in the American diet that we have, we haven't been doing a good job of putting enough calcium and vitamin D into our diet. So it becomes a little bit tricky. So for vegans especially, you guys should be very alert for getting enough calcium and vitamin D in your diets.
Yeah.
Doctor, at what age should we be really starting to get our bone density testing done? Like, what is the best age to start doing that?
So bone density testing can happen really at any age, but it depends on the risk factors that are present. It's something that you have to determine with your physician because some young women will go into early menopause, and they might have other risk factors like smoking and alcohol. They might be on medications like steroids, such as prednisone, which can really affect bone density. So it really depends on what the risk factors are. But definitely, like I said, age is the most important risk factor. And when you get older, you need to start considering getting screening. And definitely, if you're over 65 and female and over 70 and male, you need to get screened.
I have a question. Joyce Rudolph wrote a very nice article in the Glendale News Press where she interviewed you, and in the interview you said that 30 minutes of walking, which is what your walking program is that the minimum? And what about resistance? I mean, that's weight-bearing exercise, but for prevention, resistance workouts or some sort of weightlifting or cans or any kind of resistance? Okay,
that's also a very good question. So resistance and weight-bearing exercises are fundamental to osteoporosis. What you really need is some kind of tension on the bone. The tension will actually produce more bone. So that is key. You want to get enough weight-bearing exercises. You want to get cardiovascular exercise, and you want to get exercises that help with your balance as well. Exercises like yoga and possibly dance classes, things like that. So you kind of kill more birds with one stone.
Right. When you're talking resistance, you can women that are at home can use cans, soup cans, Coke bottles, or any kind of weights and rubber bands and anything. Just use your imagination. And
that's absolutely right. So whatever you can do is great. We recommend that everyone gets at least an hour of exercise every day. But if you're over 60 and it's difficult for you to exercise, then at least get 30 minutes of exercise, and you don't have to do it at the same time. You can spread it out through the day. Just get as much as you can, and like you said, you can be creative. You can do all kinds of things with rubber bands and different types of weight resistance exercises at home. So you can definitely be creative with that. But I think the easiest and the cheapest way to go about it is just to get up and start walking. If we could just get people out of the house and just have them to walk more, I think we would do so much good.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Walker?
Yes. Are there ethnicities which are more prone to osteoporosis?
Yes. So Caucasians and Asians probably have the highest risk of osteoporosis, but that doesn't mean that the other ethnicities are out of the woods, because anyone can get osteoporosis.
And
comments?
Yes, the other one is, how does DHEA, the supplements, also affect osteoporosis in terms of mitigating it?
DHEA.
Yes.
Are you talking about the
Yes.
vitamin D? Okay.
Not vitamin D, but it's another like supplement. I know the doctor.
Oh, really?
Doctor's been prescribing them.
Oh, I'm not very familiar with that supplement, so I couldn't tell you too much about it.
Thank you, Dr. Manjan, for coming tonight and enlightening us on osteoporosis. We are partnering with Glendale Memorial on your seminar on June the 9th, and we're very proud of that. So we'll see you there, and I hope to get a good turnout. And I know you have a lot more information that you can share with the women in our community, and I hope that we'll get a lot of women there. So
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Agenda item 4, consent items. 4A is the approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting held on April 13th, 2009.
Are there any corrections,
There's one correction.
additions? Okay.
One correction.
Ms. Lamel, Commissioner?
Dr. Juanita Watts, it says Dr. Juanita Bass,
Yes, oh,
if that could be changed.
thank you.
And I have
And
another.
Commissioner Manasarian has another.
Dr. Kathy Mathis was spelled Kathy Marcus.
We're on a roll with this.
We're on a roll with
aren't we?
the
Okay,
names.
let's see. Where was that?
No confusion on the
The
names.
second page on item 552.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pillsbury?
Also, motion staff butterfly. Reflected in your.
Oh, microphone's off.
Sorry.
Start again.
Okay. The motion to sponsor the 250 up to 500 pending staff investigate cost of the butterflies. My recollection, which was reflected in the current work for tonight, is that we wanted staff to look at other ways to support this project besides the butterflies.
Thank you for the correction. Duly noted.
Right. Any others?
Second that because
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Sure. Yes.
Second?
Second.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Okay, next item, please, Ms. Haddad.
Agenda item 5A is the business agenda with the action items. First item on the agenda is update on the current budget expenditures with a motion to note and file. This item is on tonight's agenda. Would you like me to give a report?
Please.
Sure. Okay. The reason this item is coming before the Commission today is because on several different occasions, the Commission has had to decide or weigh in on either a sponsorship or an expenditure. And I know there's been several requests for just sort of a general picture of how we're doing in terms of the fiscal year's expenditures. And we just wanted to really give you an update and let you know that there is some wiggle room because we've been under-expending a lot of the allocations that have been set by the Commission. So just to get a general sense of the picture, we kind of put together the allocated monies in one column and sort of the actual in another column for your reference. So we're basically just looking to inform you about the different expenses, how much was saved, and the difference between what you had allocated and what was spent, so that you'd have some sense of it. Did you want specifics?
Would the Commission have any comments to make? And then if you would like for Ms. Haddad to give specifics, she can answer your questions. If no one else does, I have a question. Can you give us just the bottom line, what we have and what our budget is right now, where we stand?
The amount of money that you have to spend right now
Correct.
is roughly $40,000.
Does that include the Rosie Goes to Wall Street?
That's a separate
Fund.
expenditure. That's a separate account.
Okay, all right.
And
And how
that's-
much is in there for our summer program?
The Commission received a grant from CDBG, $15,000, and that is actually a reimbursed kind of account because you're working with the federal government. So you have to expend the money first, and then you will be reimbursed for the expenditures. If you give me just 1 second, I'll look up what the total balance is on that account.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. Any other commissioners? Manasarian?
I had a question on page 4 regarding the promotional materials.
See if I can help out on that.
And my question was that the actual in July of 2000, page 4,
On the, which item?
promotional materials. On the bottom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It says July actual was 3653, and then July 2009 proposed is 1,000. So I was just wondering, is there, we did talk about that and we reduced the amount in one of our meetings, is that correct? Because there's a big differential there.
There is a big differential. Just to answer the chair's question very quickly.
Go ahead.
It's about $2,400 that you have left in the Rosie Goes to Wall Street account. That's an account that has to be expended, though, before the end of the fiscal year, and the graphic designer will be taking up the most of that money for this year's graphic design costs. So that money will be spent out the way it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And then we'll start again with the $15,000. To answer your question, Commissioner Manasarian, that was really an exceptional year in terms of the amount of money that was spent on the promotional items for Cruise Night last year. And in fact, the general consensus of the Commission when it was discussed was far too much money to be spent on giveaways, particularly when the demographic that shows up at that event is not local Glendale people. So it was 30,000 people, but they're coming from Long Beach or San Pedro or wherever, and the Commission felt very strongly that they didn't want to spend that much money on giveaways that were really spread all over the county as opposed to being concentrated here in Glendale.
Okay. And Ms. Haddad, wasn't this the occasion when we okayed the expenditure for a lot of different items so that we would kind of have a stockpile of gifts when we have events? So this is kind of like a one-time for a few years anyway.
Yes, and in fact, we still have inventory of
Right.
all of those things.
Right. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
One other question. Also on page 4, the upcoming Women at the Table. I noticed that there's a big difference between the proposed and the actual, and
Well, we'll be discussing that one
Oh,
as we
okay.
get to it, but the proposal is I'm assuming without filming and the,
Right.
yes.
Oh, okay.
So we'll that's agendized and we'll get to that one later.
Well, I do have a couple of questions. The graphic designer for Rosie Goes to Wall Street, what type of items is the designer going to be working on, materials?
They're really going to be working on the recruitment materials as well as setting up a logo that can brand the event sort of for a longer term. We've been utilizing one logo for the past 2 years, and we really wanted somebody to kick up the sophistication on that and keep it really clean and very geared toward the youth. So we want to work with our 2 youth commissioners here, include them in the conversations. It's the same graphic designer that does the Sex Assault Awareness Month logo, so she's very clean, very bright, very geared toward youth. So we're going to be focusing recruitment and setting up a logo.
So would the designer give us a few samples to take a look at before there's a final decision?
We really weren't planning on doing that, bringing it back to the Commission, only because the time frame on it is fairly tight. The money needs to be expended by the end of this month, and then it's going to come back to it can come back to the Commission in June if you'd like.
I think it would be a good idea. The other question I have about the Women's Foundation of California, the donor circle for $15,000. I'm not aware of this. What is that?
That was the second year of an existing grant, and it was the money that was given for the Camp Rosie program from the LA Donor Circle last year.
Thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely.
Now, is it too early this year to know if we're getting that again, or do you know that we are not getting that?
That grant has ended, that's sunsetted, so there is no more LA Donor Circle for this particular grant.
So,
But there's another grant that's taking place of that.
The Commission applied for
So it's covered.
CDBG monies, right, and was awarded from the Housing Authority.
any other questions?
Yeah. So the Rosie Goes to Wall Street, the grant, does not allow for carryovers?
No. Most grants don't, actually. The ones that we've received, they really want all the funds expended. They don't want them spent over, held over.
There's some that if it's, recurring, I don't know.
Not with the
I haven't
Women's-
read the grant.
Yeah, not with the Women's Foundation and certainly not with CDBG. Most government monies are, if they're not expended, they're returned.
Any other questions? So we'll note and file. Do we need a motion to note and file the budget? Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
Second?
I'll second.
Do we have a consensus?
Yeah.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Agenda item 5A2, consideration and discussion about the donation of unsold, unused, or unexpired silent auction items or gifts to local events and general policy, with a motion setting the CSW general policy on the disposition of unsold, unused, or unexpired silent auction items or gifts to the CSW in the City of Glendale.
Can you give us a briefing on this one, Ms. Haddad, please?
Certainly. This item is actually before the agenda, before the commission tonight because it's a happy problem. You've been so successful in soliciting silent auction gifts that we're having a huge surplus of them after the Jewels of Glendale. And this year, there's a listing at the end of the report that shows the amount, and they actually range everywhere from $15 all the way up to $360 or $650 in one case. So the staff is actually requiring and needing some direction from the commission with regards to what you want to do with the surplus. We don't have really space in management services to store the bigger items and the big baskets. So, would you like to consider how you'd like to distribute those things after? Do you want to retain them? Do you want to give them away to local events, local nonprofits? What would you like to do? Staff is really seeking the commission's direction on what you would like to do with these items.
Okay.
Well, I would like to say that since these items were gathered for a fundraising opportunity, that I don't see a reason why we cannot offer them either as an online silent auction. We can set that up very easily. The other is another event that we may have, or we can just organize and offer these same items again, so that way we are constantly making sure that we have the funding that we need for the programs and other services. I think that would be really important, or to give the commission maybe an opportunity to bid on these items, because we're so busy working the event, a lot of times we don't get a chance to do that. And maybe we could do a silent auction that way too, but somehow we can still continue to raise.
What I would like to do is open it to the commission, and maybe this is what we can do is brainstorm and come up with about 4 or 5 ways in which we can get these items taken care of. And then it seems like the most complicated one is the one on the services being redonated. So let's maybe get some ideas. Like Commissioner Lamel said, we can absorb these items ourselves, bid on them, the lowest bid. That would be one way, online. And do we have any other ideas from my fellow commissioners? Let's open it to the floor. Commissioner Pillsbury.
Do we have any other events where people are gathered that it would be appropriate to?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. To donate or to give prizes.
Your master
Well, I
calendar.
meant for people to have a mini silent auction or to.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We have several.
Yes, we do. We have
events.
women at the table coming
If you
up.
look at the calendar of events,
Yeah.
there's quite a few to choose from. Where we
And
And we can also do door prizes.
At these
raffles.
At our events. At our events.
Raffle.
Door well, no, not even sell, just kind of give them away, donate them to people. Give
That
them.
doesn't raise money, though.
Well, that
You're opposed to raffles, maybe? People purchasing?
opportunity drawings.
There you go.
And so the monies would go to our coffers to help our causes.
Exactly.
Yes. Right.
Exactly. Defer filming costs or
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Any other ideas?
We could have a bone basket at the doctor's presentation June 9th at Glendale Memorial Auditorium.
I like
Bone health basket.
That's a good
we
idea.
have enough bone material.
I can come up with it.
I'm sure you can.
That's creative.
You're very creative.
That's,
right.
yeah.
I know, that's creating something new, I understand.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Events.
That's
Yeah.
great.
You're welcome.
I like the suggestion.
I have a question. Among the items that were not sold, are there things that need to be disposed of immediately? I know the services is one concern that Chair Devine mentioned, but are there perishable things or things
That's a good
with,
point.
conditions attached to them?
I think on those, the best way to do those would be just to donate. And I think if we designate like Path Achieve and the domestic violence shelter, Ms. Haddad.
I think Commissioner Walker's question was, do we have anything now in our possession
Yes.
that's perishable? The answer is no.
No. Okay.
Commissioner Sobey?
Mr. Dodd very, very cleverly donated a perishable chocolate basket to Bras for a Cause, which was very smart. Thank you
nice,
so
yeah.
much for doing that.
And that's exactly
Yes.
what we can
Thank you.
do with those.
I will say that I believe actually that a Seroptimist purchased that basket for redonation. So she purchased it at our cost because actually, Commissioner Lamel, that's what I do is I go ahead and whatever's still there is if somebody's willing to buy it, then I'll collect money because I don't ever turn it away.
Great.
So she purchased it and then redonated it to
Well,
Bras
thank
for a
you
Cause.
for helping to make
It's a
that
great
happen.
idea. I think, but it would be great if we all knew that, so we'd have the opportunity as well, because we may want to do the very same thing. A lot of us belong to other organizations that could benefit. It could be win-win twice.
Absolutely. That's why this item is
Well, that would
Way to
be
say
the
it.
that would be the absorb. You know, we could self-absorb if we buy these items at their first bid.
Sure.
We can then regift. So that's
So maybe we could have a report like this, maybe soon thereafter, within 7 to 10 days or something, and let all the commissioners know what has been what is available and had not been sold, and then we could get involved.
Also, if I may,
please,
Chair
Commissioner
Devine,
Massering.
the auction, the Boy Scout auction had a table that they displayed the items that were not sold, and they reduced the price drastically, and those went really fast.
How
So,
interesting.
You know, it was
Yes,
like a
yes.
50% sale.
Did this occur at the event?
It occurred at the event, and it was gone as soon as it was. Most of them were gone right after
Okay,
the
that's
50%
another
sale. So I thought that was a
idea.
clever way of
It is.
disposing some of the items that were not sold. So.
I think with some items that would be a good idea. And actually, I remember last year we did reduce a few of the items to get it sold.
Are you
so-
saying for later in the evening?
Yes, it was.
Right,
it was
right.
done
Great.
after the auction was
over.
closed.
So then the tables were reopened in effect? then?
Right.
Great
They
idea.
announced that there is
Great
a
idea.
table.
Have a white elephant sale.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other ideas?
I
Mr.
think
Pillsbury?
that's actually problematic while people are still there coming for the event, that 5 minutes later, then it kind of gives a bad feeling if they've reached deep in their pocket
Good point.
to spend the money. I would rather see it reopened at the next event, like this table event, or something that it's fresh again. You have a different set of people, because basically, if people have wanted it, they put something down. And the Boy Scouts thing probably was a longer evening, and I think one of our issues for the lunch is having it on a work day. We really need to keep it to a time where people come for their work lunch and then they can leave. If it's then going to drift on into other events later in the afternoon, I think that doesn't look so good for us.
Some good points. But we could add that to our list as possibility. Okay, with those kind of problems built in. Any other suggestions? So we have about now. What? Let's. Shall we talk about the service being redonated? The services. Can you explain that, Ms. Haddad? Which services you're talking about, so everyone understands?
Would you like me to give a specific, or would you like...
An example, in case the commissioners don't.
Sure.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot.
understand.
But, for example, if somebody donates lessons for, like, life skills lessons of some sort, financial literacy, and they're doing it with the intent that the commission would receive some material benefit from it. So they don't want to give up their time for nothing. They're doing it because they want to support the commission with a monetary gain at the end of the day. So they've donated that and a basket of other goodies. So the basket of goodies are just things to them, but their time is money, and they are not really necessarily willing to let that time go for free. So that being said, then it becomes maybe an issue for them if you don't notify them ahead of time that if it's not sold, then we're going to go ahead and possibly give it away or re-auction it somewhere else. So what we want to do is just to be clear on the upfront side before we receive those goods that might happen, or what they feel about it, if there's a restriction on the services prior to the event, so that it's just a matter of clarity and transparency in the beginning of the event.
So this has to be built into the the language of the...
One of the things that we're doing, I know Commissioner Pillsbury and I are getting together tomorrow as well to work on sort of a template for, with Christine actually on the event. So we want to sort of bring together some suggestions about, and one of those things that staff is going to be doing is modifying that silent auction donation form to include things like, is there an expiration date on this particular thing? Gift certificates can't have those, but certainly services for a particular person's services could. Things like, is there going to be a reserve cost? Because we've gotten, wonderful artwork donated, for example, and there was a reserve on that, and we needed to know if the reserve was not met that the item needed to be returned, and that's certainly a condition for police as well when they donate their lunch with the chief or what have you.
Sure, sure.
They'll say if it doesn't make $100, then the certificate is null and void. So it's important for us to be able to note that, so people bidding also know what they're going to get or not going to get. So you don't want somebody bidding $95. $5 more will get you the thing, otherwise it'll go back to the police station or something like that.
Okay, so where are we then? Is then this one, the services being redonated, will be written into the how we're going to handle that?
It'll just really be a check
absolutely
mark.
Right.
You
Okay.
know.
I have a question
Okay,
about
go
that. If the service can be utilized by the commission, one of our programs and activities, wouldn't that be really the better way to handle that instead of redonate it to another organization? Because the person donating it is trying to do that for the benefit of, the benefit of the commission. So if it's like a life skills, that will work in with Rosie Goes to Wall Street type of thing. So would that be another way of asking that donor, if it does not sell at the silent auction, it would be something that we could incorporate into one of our programs?
Sure, that's one option. And
I was just going to say, but none of these will work unless the donor cooperates or gives you the paperwork, or we ask for the paperwork. That has to be done up front, correct?
well, and I think that's just what Commissioner Lamel is saying, is that you add that as an option for the donor to say, if it's not sold, then maybe it's given back, or you reuse it again or during a different program, or it's okay for you to give it away, but give the person who's donating the option of what they want to do.
And it's just a checkpoint, that's all. It doesn't have to be very complicated.
Right.
That's right.
Commissioner Walker?
So we're saying that these options, the checkpoints, the three that were mentioned, it's not really just for services, but we're talking about for all the donated items as an option, right? All the donated items,
No.
if they don't get sold, right?
Yeah, we can use them for any of these.
Yes, exactly. Because
exactly.
I'm hearing
Right.
like the focus on services,
Yes.
but
Well-
it seems that these conditions, once you enter into an agreement with the donor can have those options, to check it, whether it's services or donated goods or baskets and so on.
Wouldn't it be just for services, though? We just want to put it, we're just going to word it so that it is services, correct?
This
why not for
conversation was focused on services,
Exactly.
not on
Right,
goods.
right.
Generally, goods would be donated, just donated to the commission. That would be sort of standard practice for any nonprofit or any sort of organization that's collecting them. If that's not what the commission wants to do, then you can change the form to reflect that. But then you also kind of run into, well, then how does somebody write off a gift if they're going to get it back? Or do you know what I mean in terms of like if it's a
It can get
business
complicated.
donation, it can get really complicated. So in the interest of simplicity, that would be one of the questions that you want to consider is, do you want to apply it both to goods and to services or just to services?
And how does the commission feel on that?
I'd say services are
Commissioner
fine.
I would say services, because I'm just thinking if we're going to solicit gift certificates, I would hate to go through contracts with the vendors, for example. Or maybe we can meet halfway with services and some large goods, because if we're going to get, like, let's say $25 gift certificates, I think that it's going to be complicated to ask them, well, do you want it returned, do you want it kept? At least the ones that I've been approaching, I think it's simpler if they just donate directly to the commission and have us decide what we want to do with it. So services, I think and also to the items like the paintings, for example, large items, very large items, like maybe Commissioner Walker was referring to, those maybe like, artwork, for example, artwork. Yeah.
Right. Expensive items, very expensive items.
Not the
Commissioner
smaller-
Sylvie, did you have a comment? Oh, okay. Commissioner Pillsbury?
If we're talking about expensive items, we could set a dollar amount that if this is worth over $400 or whatever amount that we chose, if it does not sell, and then the checklist thing goes into effect. Do you want it returned? Do you want it?
Right.
Because it's unlikely, the other events that we have, it's unlikely to sell the bigger ticket items. We can sell baskets for maybe up to $100, but, when you're talking about a $300 or $400 weekend in someplace, it seems unlikely that at a talk on money matters or...
You're right. Sorry.
Well, another
Commissioner Walker?
Yes, another option is for us to offer those items for consignment, and other organizations do that. If you partner with other groups, I don't know, like Bras for Cause or something like that, you tell them that these are our big ticket items, and then you sell it on consignment for these other organizations.
That could get complicated too, but it's a good idea. It sounds good.
I'm telling you that's how other organizations do it for
that would be
for
good.
big ticket items.
And that way we get a little something. And
Exactly. And then
Mhm.
your partners, benefit from that. You benefit from it. And you're only talking about those high-ticket items that are not easily sold in, our regular events.
Right. Commissioner Sobey?
Also, like the big auction houses, Christie's, Sotheby's, you simply set a reserve.
Yep.
That's all you need. If it doesn't meet the reserve, it goes back to the donor. That's simple.
Right.
So it goes back to the donor.
Yes, the donor.
Okay.
Exactly.
Because I think
we
it's
have a clause, don't we, like that, Ms. Haddad, a reserve clause?
We do have already on the silent auction donor form a place for them to set the reserve. But the question at hand is, do you want every gift or every basket to come back to the donor, or do you want the commission to be the recipient and hang on to the gifts that you receive?
Can I make a
Commissioner
comment
Walker?
on that? I think it's important for us to acknowledge also where the donors are coming from, and also to be transparent with them. And I'm for setting up a dollar amount so that we set off this checklist, for the donors as to what to do with the items. And the things that we've brainstormed today are really helpful in identifying those parameters. But if we're going to be doing it for services goods, I think we need to have like a blanket procedure or policy so that the donors beforehand know what's going to happen. That should these items not sell, these will be at the discretion of CSW or whatever. Because I know that with some of these, the donors that I've approached for some of the auctions, they specifically want it for CSW. And if it's not for CSW, they don't want it. Okay? And also the other issue is the acknowledgement of the sponsors. These sponsors said that I'm giving you these items, to be acknowledged and so on. And some of those were not acknowledged, and so we need to work with the donors so that, we don't ruin our relationships with them.
Now, there is a plan to send, appreciation letters to the donors.
Okay, so
And I think
getting back to the agenda and the report. So, do you have enough information now on what the commission wants on the paperwork done on this?
Okay, let me just give you sort of a recap of what staff has heard. What you've basically done is you've brainstormed several different options. I have about 9 written down. Some of them include the option for the CSW to bid back on the lowest item, use them as door prizes at the commission's events, use them in other ways to continue to raise money for the commission, so other things, use them as opportunity drawings, I'm assuming still at the same commission items or commission events, reutilize them at different events like the osteoporosis, the bone basket idea, to issue a report within 7 to 10 days so that all the commissioners can be active in sort of soliciting additional sales of the items that are left, do the discount table, like the fire sale table, at the event. There was some negative feedback about that, which was sort of validated in another corner. The life skills lessons or the services to be utilized in other opportunities with the commission. For example, parenting class might be used at a program at Daly High School if you were going to create something like that. And then also to utilize a consignment and the reserve. The reserve is actually already something that the commission is doing. What I'm still looking for, though, is who do you want to make these decisions? Who is it that is going to make the call. Should there be, say, an arbitrary monetary line, anything below $150, staff has discretion. Anything between $100 and $500, the chair and staff, the chair and the vice chair, the chair and the event co-chair, who's going to be deciding where those things go? Does everything need to come back to the commission as a whole to make a decision, which would be a really kind of heavy process for you? Or do you want to give that authority to two delegates on the commission to be able to make that decision? So those are sort of the questions that the staff is still
Okay.
not hearing any answers
Okay.
to.
Comments, Commissioner Lamel?
Yeah, I have a comment about, I do think the full commission should be part of that decision-making, being that it's the full commission that are donating to this. So we all should be able to weigh in of how the items should be dispersed or taken care of. So I do think it should be, it may seem like a lot, but I don't think it would, hopefully we wouldn't have as many as this. It only seems about maybe 25 or so, or maybe less. But I think that since we're the ones soliciting for these donations, that we should have a part in deciding of how it should be taken care of. But from that list, I think that if the first four, the top four, they're going to be gone anyway. If it comes back to the commission, goes through silent auction, where we have an opportunity to bid on that. And I think there was another third idea of how to
The opportunity
take
drawing.
care of it, opportunity drawing, and just ways to continue to raise money. Then it wouldn't be a huge process to figure out where we would donate the rest if we had to. I think the first line of priority would be to continue to raise money for the commission.
Okay, why don't we, if we first set the parameter, the value, if we first say, if an item is worth $250 or more, then it has to either come back to the commission or face a committee like of 3. But shall we do that first? Set a monetary value on what we're talking about. I mean, we're not going to do this with every single silent auction item that we have. We have to set some sort of a watermark here.
I would say $100 because
Commissioner?
most of them are under 100. Most of the items are under 100, so 100 and over instead of 250 and over. Yeah,
That would be coming back to the full commission.
right. Because overall for the last year, there was very, very few that were 250 and above. This year was a little higher, but I have a feeling that that's probably not going to be the case next year.
Does anyone have any comments about the full commission having a...
I don't. There'd be too many items having to be discussed. I think we should set the bar higher and deal with fewer, more valuable items as far as the full commission goes.
Any other comments? Commissioner Pillsbury?
I don't actually really see the need for the full commission. I could see something like for anything under $150, staff could decide, is it going to take it to this event, is it going to take it to that event, with the understanding that the point is to raise money, like to do, a mini silent auction or a mini raffle or whatever. And then, say, if it's over that, you could have, like staff and chair, or staff and chair and vice chair, or staff and chair and event chair, or some combination, because I don't think all 7 of us need to talk through a list of all these.
But I think you misunderstood, though, because, like I said, if you have where we are notified within 10 days what's available, more than likely we're going to absorb it on our own. So there's not going to be that many. The other one is a silent auction online. You can do that as well. So I think with those other ways of handling that, there's not going to be as many as you may believe. But those that are left, I think it's a good idea to have the chair, an event chair, and the staff to be part of that. Make a decision.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Commissioner Manasiri?
I had another idea, which actually I think incorporates what Commissioner Pillsbury and Lamel are saying. I would say that the full commission to be notified right after the event of what all the available leftover items are. So we have a choice of, like, I was aware of some that were left over, and I purchased some. But not everybody was aware of it. So I think that
But now
it's-
they
it's
have the
good.
list and can
Now they have
purchase.
the list. Now we have the list. So I think that list really should go to everyone, and we should have, as the commissioner's choice of whether to dispose of it, purchase it, or whatever we want to do. And then decide, I think, personally, I agree with Commissioner Pillsbury in this case that we really don't need to come back over and over again, but kind of limit it to, let's say, $500 and up items, that are larger items that if we need to bring back, but then anything below that, we decide on a committee of 2 or 3 to really decide on that.
Is it 250 or 500 now?
In my personal opinion is 500 because I really don't like
We
to
have
discuss
maybe
it. but
2 items at 500.
I don't think-
Really?
Yeah,
It's
Well,
very-
250
that's-
then.
yeah,
250
Yeah,
would
the
be-
average
would
is
be-
100
Yeah,
from what I've been
then,
looking
yeah,
at. Yeah,
250.
but 250, okay.
250. So
So I think what I'm hearing is that most of the commissioners would prefer to have maybe staff and the chair and the event chair make the decision, and let's perhaps set the bar at $250. Anything over $250 or over, or well, let's say 250 or less, those 3 make the decision, and anything above 250, then it comes back to the commission meeting here in full.
And that's after we get the list?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got it.
Do we have comments, Commissioner
Yes.
Walker?
I like the idea of the full commission being informed beforehand of kind of like the status, the landscape of what was sold, not sold. And at the same time, we also get to inform our relationships, our donors as to, what happened, if they ask us, what happened to their items. And at the same time, the setting of that, threshold or amount is really helpful too. But the 250, I think, I'd lower that because in past experience looking at the things that we've had, we've never really had, a lot of, higher than 250 and so on. And I think also when we do our planning for next year, as I've suggested before, that we not put, big ticket items all together and so on because it doesn't really sell as much. So that's something for us to think about. And for the subcommittee of the commissioners who's going to look into, the items that are lower than 250, I suggest that we set forth certain standards, and I know that you've, I think, listed some procedural questions to guide whatever that committee is, so that, again, there's transparency, there's, accountability, and there's uniformity, like, of standards as to, what group is going to be getting, which of the donated items and so on and so forth.
Ms. Haddad?
With the last summary that I heard, actually, that wasn't anything that staff, and I just conferred with Lucy, that we didn't hear that the under 250 would be with a committee and then the over 250 would be with the whole commission. What I actually heard was that under 250 was sort of to be taken care of by staff. Over 250 then would come, if you wanted, to the committee. And there was really a lot of interest in not having as little as possible come back. Commissioner Lamel's point is the first 4 steps will eliminate the bulk of whatever is left over after the event. But with the items that are left over, that's sort of the question at hand right now. And in setting a policy, those guidelines, that will actually eliminate the workload for the commissioners as well, because you've defined in advance with that criteria where you want those items to go. So if your policy is, we want to hold these items for a future event, that takes care of the decision making. So they're just held for future events. And then the people who are planning that event can decide which items they want to pull out from that list that you're going to receive 7 to 10 days after the event. Does that kind of clarify it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Are there questions?
I know, we're hearing different versions, but my own personal input would be, if it's lower than 250, I'm still not comfortable with the 250 threshold because, as I said, we're not really getting that much, items. But if we get, maybe a subcommittee, I don't know, the other commissioners might not want to be involved, but I definitely would want to be involved in maybe, assisting in trying to identify what the parameters are for those unsold items. I'd be happy to volunteer and help with that subcommittee.
Now, you're talking about, now I'm confused.
Yeah, whatever items, okay,
250
lesser
below
than
or
250 or whatever, I want to, offer
you
my
want-
input.
Chair Devine, if I could
Miss
just maybe follow
Marpetian, yes,
what the
please.
discussion is. I think what you're looking for are certain items that need to be disposed of immediately, and those are the perishable items. Then you have some items that have an expiration date, and then other items that have that you can hold on to for an extended period of time. If I'm following Commissioner Lamel's request, those items that you can hold for a longer period of time, those things you should hold and somehow
Inventory.
reintroduce it to at a different commission function in an effort to raise more funds. Those that have an expiration date and those are immediately perishable, you need to deal with those fairly quickly. Perhaps the ones that are perishable and have a shorter time period, you might want to identify other organizations that you want to turn those over to in advance. Those would be commissions or organizations, nonprofit organizations that are consistent with this commission's mission and the goals. So you could do that in advance. So if you have a fruit basket, for example, and you've identified Path Achieve, then you know that you're able to turn that over right away. If you have other items that have that are perishable but have a longer expiration date, I think those are the ones that you're talking about having a deadline so that you could bring that back to the commission and talk about how you want to distribute those.
That's almost correct. I would say that after we are notified of all items, and then obviously the ones that are perishable that would be indicated on the list, and we would get that first because basically our goal is to continue to raise money. And as I mentioned before, a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to go to the silent auction area because we're entertaining our guests and making sure that the program continues to flow smoothly. So if it comes to us first, once we have decided what we want, and then whatever's left from there, if there are still perishable items, then yes, they should be designated to go to organizations that can dispose of it immediately, but we need to be aware of that, where that goes, so that we keep a tracking of that. Because if our donors ask us, well, did it get sold? We want to be able to have accountability for that because it is our reputation that's out there and integrity that we're not just taking one item and just keep passing it along, and we're not benefiting from that.
Chair Devine, Commissioner Lamel, my question to you then would be, do you want to predefine the organizations that would get those items so then if you have a week's time to donate them, that work's already done. So you may want to think about whether or not you want to identify 2 or 3 other organizations that are already identified in the policy.
I think we should have an opportunity to identify some organizations, maybe not always the same group, but to make sure that other organizations have the opportunity to benefit from things that we have left over.
Now, do you want us to now give Ms. Haddad some of the organizations that we feel are applicable, or do you have you know basically who we deal?
It's in the report.
But as I mentioned before, it
that's
shouldn't be the same organizations that always
Right.
get it.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the appropriate time to make those decisions now, that we should all get a chance to submit an organization that we'd like to see benefit from these items.
Ms. Marpetian?
We certainly need to bring back a report. I mean, that's pretty clear. I think it might be helpful, and we've heard a lot of different suggestions. It may be helpful if you send organizations or other thoughts that you had so that the report that Ms. Haddad prepares could be as close to final as possible in bringing it back.
That's definitely acceptable.
Commissioner Pillsbury?
I just wanted to clarify on this idea of perishable because I think when you have food, like people donated, like I donated cookies and other people donated
They were great
muffins.
cookies.
Good. Stuff like that should not wait the week or 10 days till we have a report about what isn't donated. I think that we should have a blanket policy that if there's food left, it goes to one of 3 or 4 organizations where people can eat it that day, and the other things can then take a little longer.
Can I interject that, possibly common sense could come into play here, that at the event we know what we should be delivering or donating immediately. I don't know that we have to have everything written down. Let's stick to the most important items and dealings that we have to. When we talk about, and I want to come back to the report, when we come back to donating to Path Achieved. I notice on page 4 you have where we're donating, and it says local, regional, nonprofit, or business. I would certainly hope that the Commission agrees with me that we should keep these items local, and we should keep them to benefiting the nonprofit organizations in our community.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't think there was a question about
Okay,
that.
so we have that. Commissioner Sobey.
And that I know this must seem petty to some of our viewers, but silent and live auction items bring many, many thousands of dollars to nonprofits in Glendale, and it helps make the fundraising circle go around. It's so necessary and so important.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think
Commissioner Walker?
I just want to add on to what Commissioner Sobey is saying, and also convey to our viewers out there that it is really the intent of this commission to really be transparent and accountable in the things that we're being given. So that's why we're belaboring and putting forth these policies and procedures.
Okay. So do we still have the ceiling or the watermark or the? Do we need to decide on that?
Can I
You have
also
that in your notes, Ms. Haddad.
In my notes, there's several. I still don't hear consensus for a number. Like, is it 250 has been
250 or-
repeated, but I've also heard some pretty strong dissensions against the 250. So maybe 150 might be the compromise. The other thing, part of the reason why both Path Achieved Glendale and the domestic violence shelter were identified as locations for the perishable items is because those are places where people live and can immediately eat the food that is being donated. So that's sort of, I know it seems common sense and maybe not worthy of being made explicit, but that's what policies are for, sort of to make explicit those common sense things so that anybody can take a look at it, and maybe who doesn't understand the workings of the commission, but really lay it out for the person who knows nothing about the commission and its work.
Commissioner Walker.
I think we're already refining this. I know what Commissioner Lamel and Commissioner Pillsbury, proposed. They really sync because we're talking about the perishable items, okay? And when you talk about perishable items, there's also perishable items with expiration date that we can, take care a little longer. But with those items, I know that we've already agreed to identify the key organizations who will be benefiting from them. So I think that resolves the issue. And so for perishable items, we have probably these top 3, groups who are going to benefit from that immediately that day or the following day. Then, that's a set policy, okay? And then for the others, then we set the threshold amount to just determine, is it going to be a subcommittee below this amount? And is it going to be the full commission above that amount?
Right.
So I think that's where we are right now.
Commissioner Pillsbury.
Actually, I heard slightly differently that the threshold was for below the threshold, say 150 or 200 or 250, whatever we decide, that below that, with the understanding that these things would go towards making money for the commission, we didn't need a committee, that these would be things that were put on the shelf, so to speak, so whoever was planning an event, whether it was staff or a commission member, could say, okay, we're going to have a little silent auction, and we're going to have, 4 things that are $150, and then whatever's above that threshold, whatever threshold we determine, that would require a committee. Okay, what are we going to do with the, timeshare in, Mexico and figure out if we wanted to do something special or if it would be, as you mentioned, like with some other group, but that there's a threshold that didn't trigger meetings and decisions, but the stuff is there for whoever can raise money for the commission. That's what I was hearing and proposing. And
Well, I think that's the proposal that you probably are gearing for. Okay, and then maybe we can, do two sets of proposal, because the way that I've been proposing or seeing it is,
It's
a little
different.
different. Yes, so we can have like modifications of the below and then modifications of the above, or options.
No, I think one of the differences is what I'm hearing you say is that the below would be committee and the above would be full commission, and I'm saying that
Yeah, exactly.
the
That's
below
why I'm
would be, staff, commission, who's ever working on an event, and above would be the committee to deal with the extra stuff. So that's two different ways of looking at the structure.
Yeah, so those are
Ms. Haddad.
actually four options.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ms. Haddad, did you have some?
I just wanted to remind the Commission there were two outstanding requests, one for the ACCW meeting and then also one for Glendale Arts. So that whatever policy you decide tonight would sort of kick in, and those events are both happening before the next Commission meeting. So.
Well, why don't we have a motion and see how the motion goes? Would either of you like to make a motion
Motion for, can you clarify?
for the policy?
I'm happy to make a motion that we set a bar for, after we go through the sequence that was outlined by Ms. Haddad and Commissioner Lamel of first donating perishable goods, second letting the entire commission know about all the things left, so people have a chance to bid on them. Whatever remains after those two things, anything worth less than $200 would be available to be used as fundraisers at future commission events, to be determined by the organizer of the event, whether it's staff or commissioner, and anything above $200 would require discussion by a committee as to what should be done with it.
Not the full commission.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Can we take a vote, Ms. Haddad?
Katafian, Commissioner Lamel?
Yes, with the change of 150. That's what we said.
Is that
That's what Ms. Haddad had said.
appropriate?
Well, I think you're asking for the person who made the motion to amend the motion.
I'm happy to amend it to
And then you want
150.
and then you want to see if the person who made the second is open to that as well.
We can be here all night if we're fiddling with numbers.
Yes, right.
Let's keep it at 200. I think that's a compromise.
Okay. 200. Commissioner Lamel?
What are we doing now?
Choices
We're
are yes or
voting?
no.
We're
Oh, I see. Thank you, Commissioner
sorry.
Pillsbury. I was just wanted to know where we were on this.
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
So your vote is yes.
yes.
Vice Chair Manasarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Pillsbury?
Yes.
Commissioner Sobey?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
No.
Chair Devine?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Next item.
Next item on the agenda is agenda.
The
I think we should get further clarification to be perfectly explicit.
okay. We need.
Sorry, just to come back to the two items that were before you today, because from what I'm looking at from my notes, they are not going to be necessarily making money for the commission. So that would be the criteria that you had laid out in the motion that just passed, is that with the intent of making money for the commission, if the item is worth less than $200. These would be just outright gifts or donations to ACCW when they want to use it for a raffle. They were requesting 2 different items, I think, and then Glendale Arts. Commissioner Sobey had brought forward a request for the, what's it called, the event at Porto's for Glendale Arts. I'm blanking out, but it's in the report.
Oh, yes, yes.
Indulge for the Arts, June 7th.
And it's coming up June 7th.
That's right. And so those 2 are not going to be used to make money for the commission. So would you like staff to go ahead and decide on 3 items to be donated that are worth less than $200? Is that okay with the commission, or would you like something other than that?
I think this is after we made a decision that the commission would have a chance to bid on the items first.
Okay, so you want to go back to that process and then open that up for the commissioners?
Exactly.
And then see what's left? Is it?
Well, no, to give us an opportunity to make our own contributions, and then after that,
identify
All right,
the extra
give it a,
Sure, but you know we have a June 7th deadline facing us, and what was the other?
May 30th.
May
And
30th.
May 30th.
we
So
could just send
if-
Ms. Haddad our items that we're interested in within the next
Well,
7 days.
I don't think she's asking specifically what items. I think she's asking us if we are on board for donating silent auction items to these 2 events without making money on them. And I don't think she's asking us particular items. You just want to know if is the commission in favor of us donating, am I correct, baskets, silent auction items, whatever we have, to these 2 events, knowing that we will not be making money on them.
I would vote in favor of that.
And I'm okay with that as well, but what I was just saying is that we get a chance to go through the list prior to the 2 items chosen.
Yes,
And it
those-
allows us to follow our, procedures.
Right.
Right. Ms. Haddad?
And both of those conditions can be
Yes.
met. Everybody has a list of the unsold items. If you respond to me
Yes.
by
Right.
Friday, then I can make a decision from whatever's left under $200.
So do we need a motion
Yes,
for,
please.
yes, do I have a motion to that effect?
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, so we'll be donating to the ACCW and...
Is there
to-
unanimous consensus for
Was
that?
there unanimous?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next
Do
item?
you want to be notified by email?
Sure, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Agenda 5A3, consideration and approval of sponsorship for the National Vigil of Hope, with a motion providing direction regarding the sponsorship for the Vigil of Hope, which is to be held May 17th, which is this Sunday. This item is returning to the Commission. It was initially first introduced, and my apologies for sort of a fairly incomplete report. However, it is back before you today with some clarification on the numbers that were requested by Commissioner Pillsbury and Commissioner Lamel. As you know, the event is to be held on Sunday. The Commission had already reserved Parcher Plaza for the event right by Rosie's Garden. Because there was some hesitancy about paying for the butterfly release at the end of the day, because it was literally money flying away, I think is the way that you put it.
Yes, that
So what has come back to the Commission is essentially the labor cost for setting up the event from Parks and Recreation. We are billed at a rate of about $40 an hour for that. So the event itself is only about an hour and a half or 2 hours long. It takes about an hour to set up, an hour to take down. So anywhere between $120 and $160 would be what would be allocated for that. And then if the Commission wanted to provide water, not knowing how hot the day was going to be, Dr. Mathis was wondering if you'd be willing to. I think at this late date we could not get GWP to donate. However, it wouldn't be that much to get the smaller bottles from Smart and Final, and we could do that for the event. So, or the Commission could decide to allocate that money. So if you'd like to give us some direction, be happy to move forward with
Okay,
that.
do I have a motion? In essence, we're saving $250, aren't we?
So how much are we talking about?
$250.
Up to $250.
Up to and not to
not to exceed.
exceed.
I just have a concern that because there's no track record with this event, we need to have a criteria of how we sponsor. And my biggest issue is that we have vendors that have not been paid from Jewels of Glendale that watch this program and have contacted me on several occasions, and for us to give out $200 to an organization that's really not localized. This is a national vigil, and we could be a community media partner or another type of partner, as they suggest, which means send out press releases listed on our website, put a link from our website to their website, things that are cost effective, well, no cost at all to our budget, and to make announcement tonight about when and where this is. I'm just a little uncomfortable of providing that amount of money when there are several vendors that have not been paid since March. So I really would ask the Commission to not really support that in a monetary way, other than maybe a few cases of water.
And any comments from the Commission?
I agree, the vendors have to get paid first.
And I think since we're also in the process of finalizing our figures and finances, until we've really clarified, how much we made with the jewels and all these outstanding invoices and so on, I think we should hold on to donating financially to other organizations until we settle these things.
Ms. Haddad?
A couple of points. If the Commission does not agree to move forward, this event will be canceled because it's being held at Parcher Plaza. So that's one possible ramification of not choosing to support this event. The other is that the vendors who have not been paid because they have not met city policies in terms of filling out their W-9s and other paperwork. All the invoices from the event have been forwarded. All of the vendors have been notified about the W-9 requirement. We cannot pay them without proper documentation of their employer ID number. And so once they come into compliance, there was one vendor who was contacted back once his invoice was received. He was notified via email and phone message regarding a W-9 payment. One of the vendors who we spoke to immediately received it. The other one took 4 weeks to return a W-9 to our finance department. For that delay, I mean, that's just one thing to consider, is that there's also policies in place for them. If we're using vendors who have not been utilized by the city, there are requirements for them to fill out paperwork in advance, and we could have notified them had they known, or had staff had a clearer, sense of who it was that needed to be filling out that paperwork. So that's on the vendor question that you bring up, and it's true. We need to get these people paid. People do their work, and they should get paid for their work. However, if the delay is due to something that is beyond the Commission's control or staff control, I don't know how you could hold that, accountable for the Commission. It's certainly not something that comes back to the Commission.
Mr. Pillsbury.
I'm concerned about the Commission's credibility if we don't support this event, because last month we discussed it and decided that it was an event worth supporting. We just didn't want to do the specific thing that they requested. So then something else was come up with, which is perfectly within the scope of what we normally do. And I don't think it looks good for us to back out once we've said we support your event. We just would like to support it in a different way. That perhaps that discussion, had we had that discussion last month saying, I don't think we should support the event, then that would be a different thing. But once we've said that we are in favor of it, I think that it's important, especially because, Ms. Haddad, you've said that we have the money, so it's not a question of we'll pay the bills or do this. We have the money to do both, and we've made a good faith commitment. So I am in favor of supporting it up to $250 in the manner that you've described, which is for the setup and the water, and we'll see how the event goes and whether we think it's an important something to support in the future or not.
Well,
Commissioner O'Neill?
I disagree with part of your explanation because, again, our credibility is at risk because of the vendors that are outstanding. While there has been an explanation by Ms. Haddad, I'm not hearing the same thing from the vendors, so it's a lot of miscommunication. So if this event is reliant just on our $250, then there's something wrong with the event, in the planning of the event. That's why most organizations don't sponsor someone that has no track record, because maybe it's the location. Maybe they should find a different location that you don't need to have that expenditure. It's just like it doesn't sound balance to say, on one hand, let's give a group that is not, we're not getting any services from them. It's just a good field type of an event, whereas people have rendered services and they're not getting paid, and it's been 2 months.
Ms. Haddad?
There are a couple things. It seems like you're talking about two separate issues here. The Jules vendors being paid is one issue.
Talking about integrity.
This event being funded is another one. The reason this event was reserved in this location was because the Commission gave specific direction to move forward with the planning of this event and return with additional details. The Jewels of Glendale, you're hearing some discrepancies from the vendors.
Right.
There is a process audit going on right now for the Jewels of Glendale, so we'll get our full reporting back from our audit department, and we'll find out where all those discrepancies were so that in the future they don't happen again. So that will be taken care of, and that is one issue. And then on the other issue is the Commission's specific direction in April was to move forward, support this event, and so staff moved forward in good faith and reserved Parcher Plaza and has reserved sound equipment and, staff time. So it's important, I think, just to consider that and put that on the table as well.
Well, I think then, thank you for that explanation. So I think that maybe in the future we do need to have a criteria of how we do sponsorships. Because of that, an organization should not really come to us to really be the foundation of their idea. They should already have at least the foundation handled. And then other monies that they ask for is to enhance it, but not to, if it doesn't happen, we don't have an event. I don't think that's appropriate for us to handle that because it's not a CSW event. This is another organization out of Washington State, so that just concerns me. But since we've already moved forward and you reserved a spot, and I guess we should have to go forward with it, but I think that's a lesson learned that we don't take on something like that again without it going through some criteria of at least having their foundation taken care of.
When you, I'll ask you, when you say their foundation, are you talking about like these sponsors? I mean,
Meaning
it's
the foundation-
we are not the sole support of this
Well,
event.
it sounds like it. If we don't pay the $250,
No,
the event won't
absolutely
happen.
not.
Ms.
No.
Haddad just said if we don't give them this money, the event won't happen. What I mean by foundation is it's just as if when we give an event, we pay for the location. Foundation is what I'm trying to say. If they can't even pay for their location, and they're dependent on us to pay for that, or the labor to have their event at the location, it's not appropriate to ask for, actually what they're asking for is operating money or seed money to have their event.
Well,
Okay. Can
Ms. Haddad, do you want to chime?
I'll wait.
Ms. Walker.
Yes. What I'm hearing from Commissioner Lamel in terms of the foundation aspect is having the commission bear on the responsibility, for making the event happen or not, if we donate or not donate. Do you agree with me?
well, I think-
Chair
I think
Devine?
you're-
That's, again,
Yes.
what I'm sharing with you is my own interpretation of what Commissioner Lamel is saying.
Right.
You might not agree with it, but, I think we are free to agree to disagree.
And Ms. Haddad just
absolutely,
said that if we
absolutely.
don't give them the money, it won't happen. So that's where I got that information from.
Okay.
So please explain.
To be clear, it won't happen in Glendale because this event is happening on Sunday, and this event was selected as a site in collaboration with Kathy Mathis, who came here last month, discussing why she wanted it in Glendale. It's central to both LA County and Orange County. If the commission chooses not to support it, we will let them know they're going to need to move their event. However, we have been a community partner. Press releases have been sent out. The information is listed on the commission's website. So all of that information then again reflects on the commission and how you decide to move forward in good faith with events or not events. So it's based in Washington, D.C. It's a national vigil, though, just like ACCW was based up in Sonoma, but it's a statewide event. So does the same criteria then apply also for the ACCW meeting? Or do
No,
you know
we're
what
a
I mean?
member of ACCW. That's different.
And
We're
that's
not a
true.
member of this.
That's true. And the idea to come back
They're the
with
two.
And the idea to come back with criteria would be great for the commission. I think that's
Okay.
a good thing to do.
As long as we do
And
that.
I also want to add that initially, they did not ask us to fund the event. They asked us for butterflies. Okay?
So how did it come
and
to
we,
funding it?
Because we are not. They asked for butterflies. They were $500. Commissioner Pillsbury cited that she thought that was more or less a waste of money, and the commission advised and made a motion that we find another way that is better suited for use of our money, and and Ms. Haddad did investigative work, and what they needed was tables and chairs, and so that seemed like a good fit for us to be able to help. We're not putting it on; we're helping with the $250. So I'm in agreement with the other commissioners that think that this should go on. Should we go try for a motion on this one? Do I have any motions?
Happy to do a motion.
Commissioner Pillsbury, motion.
I move that we support this event up to $250 in the way that is outlined, which includes the setup and the water, up to $250 worth.
May I ask how many people we're expecting?
Do I have a second?
I second.
How many people do you expect at this event?
I believe Dr. Mathis was somewhere between 50 and 100 people.
Okay, can we take a vote, Ms.?
Oh, are we ready for a vote? I just think we should honor our commitments. There's a way we're going to be honoring our commitments with our vendors. I think we should honor our commitment with this organization as well.
Shall we take a vote, Ms. Haddad?
Sounds like a good idea. Commissioner Lamel?
Yes.
Vice Chair Manasarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Pillsbury?
Yes.
Commissioner Sobey?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Chair Devine?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Chair Devine, can I add something related to this one? Can you advise regarding the procedure in terms of identifying or including the recommendation of Ms. Haddad and Commissioner Lamel in terms of maybe agendizing in the future, setting off criteria for us in terms of sponsorship?
Yes, I believe that is going to be on the agenda next month.
Okay, great.
If the commission is for that. Do we have a
Yes.
consensus here? Do you want to put something like that on the agenda to?
For discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay. Next item.
Next item on the agenda is Agenda Item 5A4. And this is a consideration and discussion regarding the second annual Women at the Table, how and why to get appointed to a city board or commission, with a motion to provide direction regarding the second annual city clerk and CSW collaboration, the second annual Women at the Table event.
Okay, I'll open it up to the commission. Any comments, questions, suggestions?
I have two comments. One, since it is about how to be appointed as citizen board or commission, we don't have any...
Or citizen.
I'm sorry?
Citizen boards.
Citizen boards, yes, or commission. We don't have anyone from, that I could tell from a commission on the panel. Is there a reason for that?
Councilman Friedman was a design review board, and board member Nairina Habidian was a former commissioner on this commission.
What are they going to talk about? How to get on a commission? Yes. Okay, because it just seemed like
they will be talking about this is a women it's a leadership is the topic, women's leadership. So they will be talking about women in politics and community posts, commissions and boards, etc. So it's a wide.
It wasn't clear on what the topic was here. I don't see it written there. Leadership.
Well, that's what it's called, special focus on women's leadership.
Okay. And the other is, do we need to really film that? Do you think it's...
That's topic of discussion. How do we feel about that, commissioners?
I believe we filmed it last year.
We did.
And then where did we show that film?
It showed on GTV6 numerous times and got really good reviews, and I got a lot of good feedback, as I think some of the other commissioners did as well, and Ms. Haddad.
Well, then we should do it again.
I agree with Commissioner Selby because, I was really impressed by the program, and I think that it was wonderful that it was aired and people really got to see it. So it was a great event, and we should televise it.
Good. And this year, Commissioner Walker, go ahead and I'll finish.
And is it also archived on our website or the city website?
Yes, to both.
Okay. And do we have any statistics on how many unique access?
I don't have access to those numbers. I could
I'm
put in a
interested in
request to
finding-
IS, though. That would be really interesting
Yeah.
to see how many people have seen it.
Exactly.
I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners who think it should be taped. I had some doubts in the beginning, but as we confirmed the speakers, they're wonderful women, and they've made great inroads into women in politics, and I'm just real excited about this program, and I think it would be a great one to film. So I'm for that. So do I have a motion on this budget? To
Can I
approve
ask-
or amend, or?
Can I ask
Sure.
additional
Walker.
information? Who, aside from us and the city clerk's office, are there other partners?
Last year we had League of Women Voters, but they didn't financially sponsor the event. They just sort of supported it by speaking. So we don't have, the Alex Theater gives us a very reduced rate. They don't require the entire security deposit. So they're sort of a community partner, but not necessarily a financial partner in that sense.
And we're very lucky because the city clerk, Artie Kasakian, is donating all the food, and it was wonderful last year, and I'm sure it'll be great this year, too. So, and it was very well attended, so we expect to have a good crowd.
And do we know from the people who attended the event, or, probably gotten application forms or additional information, how many we've recruited in terms of actually applying for positions?
I knew of 2 women who were planning on applying as a result of attending that event. I don't know if they actually can't follow through and applied. It was a little bit difficult because there weren't that many openings last year when we did it. So one of the things we'll be providing is a list of all the board and commission openings for the city of Glendale at the event. So we'll have a current updated list.
And then do we get a list of the attendees? Is there?
We have a list of the attendees, but what we don't have is access to all the applicant pool at the city clerk's office. But I'm sure what we can do is maybe cross-reference those 2 lists
That would
together.
really be good.
Okay.
Mr. Sobey?
Also, it's just a very inspirational event for women, just in general, whether they apply for office or not.
Are we planning to do some outreach with media to make sure that people know about this event, ads or press release?
Sure. Mr. Pillsbury?
One other thing, I don't know if the young people had thought about inviting high school students to something like this, but it might be a good idea.
Absolutely. Just for your information, it is on, I'm looking for the June 1st. Here it is. I have it highlighted. Monday, June 1st, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 at the Alex Theater. So, and everyone is welcome to come. It's free, and it should be really interesting. Now, do I have a motion on the budget?
Chair, excuse me,
Mr. Walker?
just another question too. Are the speaker pool, is it already set?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because I was thinking, Commissioner Pillsbury made a really good suggestion inviting the youth. If we can maybe look into this year or next year, including some of the student ex officios to be part of that,
Well,
process.
hopefully they'll be there and they can talk to the attendees about their daughters applying for this position. That would be fabulous. They can be on a commission table. That'd be great. Do I have a motion?
I so move that we spend up to $11.50 for Women at the Table on June 1st, 2009.
I second.
Vote, please. Roll call.
Commissioner Lamel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manasarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Pillsbury,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobey,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item on the agenda is Agenda Item 5A5, consideration of sponsorship for co-hosting the ACCW quarterly business meeting. You'll notice on this item that there are three different motions. The first motion is to rescind the June 9th, 2008 CSW formal action to host the ACCW quarterly business meeting and allocate funds. To B, provide then direction, a motion providing direction regarding co-hosting the May 30th meeting of ACCW. And then C, a motion to allocate funds for the upcoming May 30th meeting, should you choose to co-sponsor this meeting. So those are the three motions before the commission today.
There's something I want to clarify about that. In my mind, when we took it off the calendar, it was because we weren't going to have it in Glendale, and that's what we meant by hosting. It was decided at the, on-call meeting or the conference call that it would be at a place that was closer to the airport, LAX, to make it easier for the other commissioners from around the state to get to a meeting place. So it wasn't so much that we were not going to be part of the co-hosting with LA and Pasadena. It was just that we weren't going to host it physically here in Glendale. That was the understanding.
And similarly, that's the recollection that I have. I attended the e-conference as well.
As did I, and that's my recollection as well, that we were not hosting it, we were part of it. We were going to partner with the other commissions, and they decided, the president, Charlotte Lesser, decided, and whoever else was on the committee, that they would meet at LAX and we would co-chair or partner with them.
And just to clarify, during the e-conference, the teleconference, it was not yet decided, the venue.
It's true.
And so on. So it was brought forth later on.
So we are saving money on the venue because that was donated, but we would like to make sure that we have the appropriate meals available.
Go ahead.
And a speaker. So what we had originally approved was, my understanding was $1,500.
Well, Commissioner Lamel, right now let's deal with one motion at a time, and the first one is to rescind the June 9th action to host the ACCW quarterly business meeting and allocate funds, because we are not hosting it. And so this does not mean that we're not going to support it. It simply means that we're clearing the record and our archives of this hosting. So what I need now is a motion to rescind the action to host the ACCW quarterly business meeting and allocate funds.
I'll make the motion to rescind that we are not hosting it here in Glendale, but we are co-hosting with LA and Pasadena back on calendar.
Well, that's second motion.
It's a separate thing.
There are three motions.
Just want to
there.
rescind it first.
Exactly.
Okay.
Motion A.
A motion to rescind it.
Second.
Roll call. Vote, please.
Commissioner Lamel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manasarian.
Yes.
Commissioner Pillsbury,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobey,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So then the next motion that we have to work on is the co-hosting. And we've all along said that we wanted to partner with the ACCW. I mean, that's what we do. So I need a motion to co-host the Association of California Commissions for Women quarterly business meeting in February.
I so move.
Yes.
The date is May 30th.
Oh, it's wrong. Ooh, yeah. That's right. Correction in the minutes. Do I have a second? Did I get a second? Okay. Commissioner Sobey, can we get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Lamel,
Yes.
Commissioner Manasarian, Vice Chair Manasarian.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Did I do that to you last time?
That's okay.
Commissioner Pillsbury,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobey,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then on the third motion is to appropriate funds for the ACCW business meeting on May 30th. And now, Ms. Haddad, would you give us can you give us an overview of where we are on that for the benefit of the commission?
Certainly. The commission had allocated $1,500 with an explicit discussion that it was to be for hosting, and it was a celebration of the 5th year anniversary here in Glendale. Since the commission is no longer hosting, and you've just rescinded that motion, so what's before you now is sort of the request from ACCW. I received an email, and what was identified were the items that were listed in the report. So it was $800 listed for food, breakfast, lunch, and snacks. There is still no number of confirmed attendees for this meeting. We just received an email reminder with the directions from ACCW earlier today. The speaker, ACCW requested a $300 honorarium, and then programs and handouts was identified, but not an amount that was listed in the email from ACCW. So just for your reference, what I've included in this is notice of ACCW past practices is that the general tenor of the ACCW meetings has been that ACCW will pay for up to half of the lunch, and the local hosting commission pays for the breakfast and some snacks and some like coffees and waters and sodas and things like that. Generally, ACCW has not paid speaker fees or honoraria, and the Xerox copies of the agenda and handouts were usually handled and provided by the board secretary, a position that I filled for a year, so we absorbed a lot of the cost here in the city of Glendale Management Services for those handouts for the ACCW meetings for that year. Also important to note that the average attendance ranges anywhere between 15 to 35 with a real low. We had a pretty high turnout for a 2-day meeting that we held here in August one year. And that was on the high day, about 50 people here. But that was inclusive of Glendale commissioners and other local commissioners as well.
I have a question before I open. Commissioner Manasirian and Commissioner Lamel, you went last year, was it, to Santa Monica? How many were there at that meeting, at the ACCW meeting? Do you recall in the room?
I think it was at least 20. But this is the thing. They are expecting a lot more, basically because there is not going to be a national convention. So this is going to be it for us. Also, that the ACCW is a little shorter on funds this year, and that was why we suggested that Glendale would handle most of that. The other is because we're not having the national convention or conference in D.C., we wanted to have a really good speaker that would be an interactive speaker that we could come away with some more expertise and lessons learned that we could bring back to each of our individual commissions and use those new tools that we need. So it's a little bit different this time, and the next time it will be in Northern California, which means that maybe most of us could not attend. But since it's local, everyone could attend, especially our students, ex officio students, and we encourage that. So we are expecting a larger number. It's just that it hasn't been confirmed yet because people are a little slow in responding.
Right.
And,
Commissioner Walker?
and I think they're expecting a lot more attendees because it's in LAX and people are not going to stay overnight. So it's just going to be an in and out kind of thing. So.
Well, any other commissioners have a comment? Commissioner Pillsbury?
I had just a couple of questions. You had said that we were co-hosting with somebody else.
We're co-hosting with 3 others, so there are 4 of us that will be splitting the cost.
Okay, so if there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner...
No dinner.
Okay, there's breakfast and lunch totally...
For 20 people.
For 20 people, how is, even if it's 25 people, how is it that much money if we're spending 1/4 of it?
Well, Commissioner Pillsbury, since I'm the task lead on
Yes.
this, it is going to be more than 20. And LA was able to get us the room, which saved us a substantial amount. That's their donation.
And
Okay.
is it also the videotaping?
In video.
Yeah, so that's their
they're handling
contribution.
a big part of it. Our part is it's almost equal because they're doing it in other services. Otherwise, we'd have to find a place to have it, and the cost would be substantial, especially at a hotel. This way, we have the option of having it catered or picking up Costco or something like that. So it is going to be more than 20.
More than 20 people.
Absolutely.
And can I also add that I'm being the representative for this one and also being given certain tasks by the other hosting committees. They've asked me to put together a directory for the other commissioners that includes, what the mission is, the composition, like key programs and so on. So I think that's another expenditure that they're thinking of.
But you volunteered to do that,
Yes,
didn't
but
you?
the printing-
but you're paying for that. You volunteered your services. And
I did. I'm doing the
you're
graphics
donating
design.
everything.
Yes,
Oh, I thought you were donating the Oh, well,
Yeah, I'm donating the services for that, but not the printing.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
You mean the Xeroxing?
I don't know. I think they're going to
No,
be doing a printing.
actually, my feeling is that would be ACCW's responsibility, paying for a directory, or that is not the Glendale Commission responsibility. I think I've been to the ACCW meetings several times. And there's a lot of business to be done. It is a business meeting. All we need is an agenda on a sheet of paper to tell us what that we're doing and what the business at hand is. We will probably have business during lunch. I don't even think we'll have time to socialize or do anything else. We only have a 4-hour period or a 5-hour period to get all the work done that they want to get done. So I think $250 for food, that is our 1/4 of all that's necessary. We have contacted the president of the Los Angeles Commission. We have talked to Mary Weiberg at Sacramento. She's the staff person for the Commission on the Status of Women in California, and they have both told us that $250 is more than enough. There is absolutely no reason to go any higher than that. $1,500 was just, they said, out of this world. And so $250 is perfect as far as they are concerned. And Mary Weiberg and Charlotte Lesser are the two women that are in charge of the state and this commission, the southern section. So I'm taking their word for this, and I think that we should allot $250 for this event. And how many are attending from this commission?
Chair Devine, it's interesting that you said that, because I just received an email from Charlotte Lesser that did not say 250. And Commissioner Rita Turner from Pasadena is the one that's really putting it all together, and 250 would not be enough. Okay, if just want to go maybe 50% of what's on this budget here, which is $1,100, and then half of that would be more acceptable. I think that's really.
But But Commissioner Lamel, we're not paying for a speaker, and we don't have to do lunch. The ACCW pays for lunch.
Well, according to Charlotte, she said they had no budget. Yeah. Okay, so
then maybe they should cancel this meeting, because we can't. This commission can't host this whole thing for everyone.
But they're not hosting the whole thing. Like I mentioned before, the venue and the video taping of that is being handled by LA. The thing is that we don't know exactly how many people, but it's definitely more than 50. $250 would not be enough. Are you planning on to attend?
Yes.
Chair Devine? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because even the one that we were at last year with 25 people, you know how much they spent? They spent over $2,000, because they had a meal for us, and then the snacks, and then a light breakfast.
I had a question, though. May I?
Commissioner Manasarian.
From, I think, either Commissioner Lamel or Commissioner or Chair Devine. If we are co-hosting with three other commissions, then I think we should be responsible for 1/4 of the cost.
It would make sense, but they don't have the funding. We're the only commission that has
the
this kind of
funds.
money, right?
So really, in a sense, what you're saying is, even though we're a co-host, we end up kind of...
No, we're not paying more.
sponsoring.
Remember, if we had to get a venue, it would cost us more than...
Right, but what I'm trying to say is the whole thing, like with the venue, with the videos, with the food, the cost is not $6,000. Because that's 1,500 times 4. What I'm saying is, if you put everything in the pot together,
they all can't give. But I think that if we can give $250 to an event this Sunday, we should give ourselves a little bit more as a whole commission, because we are part of the co-hosting of this, and it would. I think that we should invest a little bit more into the ACCW in this meeting.
And is it already for sure that there's no honorarium that's going to be paid for the speaker?
No, what the report says is
No speaker?
that
Oh, no, 'cause there's no
ACCW
money.
usually does not pay speaker fees.
I know that's the past practice, but
Right.
because of the NACCW not being
Well, I suppose if
And
they
so
want
on,
one, they
yeah.
can have one. If the ACCW wants to have, when you were on the conference call, they gave us the budget. Didn't they say they had like $30,000 in their budget?
No. No.
Let me look at my notes. Oh, finance, 17,692.
But it wasn't
That could-
for that, though, for some
For
reason.
ACCW, that was what they gave it in the conference call. They gave their bottom line, how much, because one of the gals asked how much is in our treasury, and they said, thought it was somewhere
With
near
other-
$30,000. So I think that ACCW can afford to pay for the lunches, and I think everything else is totally unnecessary. It's a business meeting. It's 5 hours. And do I have a motion?
For $250?
For, yeah.
Chair Devine, I really think it should be $350 at least.
We're nickel and diming.
No,
here.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
it went from $1,500 to $250. I mean, at least $350.
Well,
Because if we're going to have it,
Okay.
anywhere from
says-
50 to 60 people.
She was allotting food $800. If we pay 1/4 of $800, that's $200.
The other
We're giving
commissions-
them extra.
Can we also double check, because we're getting different information, and I know I've emailed also ACCW and so on, looking at the further details on this one, because I don't know if their budget is going to change in terms of their expenditure and so on. So are we open to revisiting that? Because I agree with you that if they've allocated this much, you said, what, $800 or?
That's just what's on this.
Yeah, as to what they've given you, right?
No,
Okay.
that's what they're telling us that they want us to pay, $800 for food.
I'm the
Don?
treasurer now for ACCW, Chair Devine. So let me just clarify: the $800 came about for the amount of people that they expect, and for the money, the food. We've already talked to LA City and County as well as Pasadena. They don't have dollars to pay for the food. That's where we were coming in on that part of it. I know that the staff recommended $250, but speaking to those that are actually putting it together, it's not going to cover it. So I'm asking that the commission would look at just adding an additional $100 to the staff recommendation. I'd like to.
I don't know anything about the organization particularly, and I'm not going to go. I'm going to be out of the country. But it occurs to me that y'all go to conferences and meetings all the time, and sometimes the food is there for us, and that's great. And sometimes we have to pay $10 and we get a box lunch, and everybody eats their box lunch while they're doing their work. And I think that it's reasonable for us as a co-host to pay a portion of the food money, say the $250, which the organization recommends, but I don't see the need for us to actually host and pay for everybody, because the money that we raise, from our events and from our donors and stuff like that, the expectation is that money is to go to support programs like Rosie and this money thing and the self-defense thing, not to necessarily feed ourselves. So I think that a certain amount of that, in modest terms, is okay. And if there are 4 hosts, $250 to cover 30 or 35 people sounds reasonable as our share. More than that, to me, sounds extravagant. As if I were putting myself in the donor position.
And it would
how
be
the money-
extravagant if there was $250 from each commission, but as I mentioned before, that will not be happening. And I'm just asking for another $100 more, not anything extravagant, and we are giving up at least 8 hours of our day, because even though it's just 6 hours, it's travel time back and forth. So we are volunteering our time, and this is a program to help us be better commissioners. This is not something we're just going, it's not a tea party.
No, I know, but we all do
So
stuff
we
like
also
that all
need
the
to
time.
invest in ourselves one time a year, twice a year. I don't think that's extravagant. And it is going to be more than 35 people, according to the reports that I'm getting. That's just my opinion.
And remember, if we don't buy them all up ourselves, we are offering silent auction baskets. That's
right.
some more contribution
That's right.
from us.
Good point. Good point, Commissioner Sobey. So we would be giving $250 plus silent auction items.
Which the silent auctions could pay for the lunch.
There you go. Do I have a motion?
Especially if you make more cookies.
Do I have a motion?
So that means are we going to offer more than one basket?
Pardon me?
Are we offering more than one basket or more than one
I
silent
think
auction?
Ms. Haddad said before 3, so,
Did you say 3?
yes, 3.
It was
silent
items
auction.
that totaled up to $200. That was the...
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
All
then
right.
we'll be giving $450.
Okay, that's fine.
So, do I
Okay.
have a motion?
I so move that we, all right, that we spend, or we appropriate $250 to cover our share of refreshments or whatever the ACCW needs for their conference on May 30th.
I second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Lamel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manasarian.
Yes.
Commissioner Pillsbury,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobey,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item, please.
Next item on the agenda is Agenda Item 5A6. It's the CSW Master Calendar of Events with a motion to provide direction regarding the master calendar. You will notice that at the direction of the chair, the June 9th Osteoporosis in You seminar at Glendale Memorial has been added. And just wanted to bring that up to your attention.
Any comments on the calendar corrections? I have some additions, but I'll let you, anyone have? We have already discussed before the meeting, we are, because of Ms. Haddad leaving us, we're trying to make the transition easy. So we've been planning our health speakers each month. June, we did not plan anyone, but I had in mind a dermatologist for Sun Safety Week, which is June 1st through 7th, and Commissioner Lamel has offered a dermatologist from...
Dr. John Martinez, Chief of Dermatology in Kaiser.
Great, and so we'll try to get him for June.
He's confirmed.
Confirmed. Okay, great. And for July, we're going to have hopefully someone, a rheumatologist for Scleroderma Month. August, Laura Hartwell will speak on National Minority Donor. That's National Minority Donor Month, but she will speak on kidney organ donations. And in September, Dr. Bima from Glendale Adventist, I believe it is going to speak. It's Healthy Aging Month, and she's going to speak on fatty liver disease, which is affecting now young people as well as older people. And so we want to create awareness so that, you be sure to be here, won't you? She's very concerned, and so she wants to come and talk to the women that watch, the public, and so we've scheduled her. She's confirmed for September. So I wanted you all to know that. Also, as Ms. Haddad pointed out, the Osteoporosis and You on June 9th. And also, if you look in October, we have osteoporosis seminar at Verdugo Hills Hospital. The doctors Osterkamp are going to be doing a 2-hour seminar from 6 to 8 p.m. that night on the 6th. And we've offered to partner with them, and they're very excited about it. So we'll be doing that one as well. And Ms. Haddad, I wanted to ask you, I had an idea about the calendar for the benefit of the commissioners, so that when they check their calendar to see what events are on what days, would it be possible to put the time so that they know right when they look at the calendar, they say, I should be at the osteoporosis seminar at Verdugo Hills from 6 to 8 on October the 6th, because there's none of these have times. But when we know them, if we can put them on the calendar, would the commissioners?
The location would be great too.
Well, yeah, mostly. Well, okay.
Within the meeting. Obviously,
Yes.
we know that.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to. Did we get a count on who was going to the the ACCW meeting. I'm sorry to go back on that.
I
Can
just saw three of us.
Three? Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, no, then it would be four.
Oh,
Who else? Weren't you going? Okay, I'm going.
okay, good. So you can contact Commissioner. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that. So is there anything else to add to the calendar? Any more? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the calendar as amended?
I move that we approve the calendar as amended.
A second.
Do we have a consensus on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
next item, Ms. Haddad.
Next item is Agenda Item 5B, Reports Information Only. B1 is Commissioner Grace Walker providing a report out on the March 11th conference call from ACCW. Sorry for clarification.
I represented Glendale Commission on the Status of Women for this teleconference meeting, and I was joined by Commissioner Lamel and Chair Devine, and I think we're, one of the commissions that really was represented well. And the major thing that we talked about is, one of the things is resource sharing, brainstorming different ways on how we can utilize, the internet, also digital technology and so on, so that it's easier in terms of information and resource sharing. And we're looking at more of these e-conferences. They also talked about the training needs of the commissioners, talking about grant writing, building relationships, leadership skills, lobbying, managing political agendas, and so on. They talked about the membership updates and, how they're trying to get the other commissioners be updated in terms of their membership dues, and at the same time encouraging us to ask other cities to form their own commissions. And as I said, during the last Jewels of Glendale meeting that we've had, there's an interest with Temple City to form their own commission, and I think that would be wonderful if Glendale Commission on the Status of Women, through us, would help them form that. So, we'd be really doing a really good service. And then they talk about the issues affecting women, human services, the health cutbacks, and hoping that the stimulus bill would be able to take care of these things. But I think the most important point during the meeting was to adopt a single goal for the CSW for the California Commission, and that is to focus on the economic status of women. Okay, so I think during the meeting, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about in terms of how, I know we have our different focus for the different commissions and so on, but coming together so that, we have a synergistic focus, and that's on the economic status of women and how to brainstorm ideas on how we can support that focus, and also how to share resources. So that's basically some of the things that we talked about, and also planning for the meeting for May, June. Now it's May 30th. If you have questions. And I want to congratulate Commissioner Lamel. She is the new treasurer for the ACCW.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yeah. One of the big issues with the ACCW is recruiting commissions. There are many commissions in California that aren't members, and so that's a big point of contention on how to get those commissions to join. So I'm sure that we'll be working on that as well. Thank you, Commissioner Walker. Next item.
Next item on the agenda is Agenda Item 5AB2, an update on Sex Assault Awareness Month activities for the year 2009. Just to go back over, this is one of the annual year-long campaigns that the Commission holds in the city of Glendale. This year, the resolution for SAM and Denim Day in Glendale was presented by then Mayor Draymond at the March 24th, 2009 council meeting to the Commission. The chair was there to accept the resolution on behalf of the Commission. April 17th was the annual Take Back the Night rally. Got some really good coverage in the press on that. And the Clothesline Project exhibit was also there. Nearly 50 people attended that event from the sign-in. I think there were people there who didn't sign in, as usual. There was some survivor poetry, addresses by the commission chair and the YWCA board president. A great talk by Lisa Bubari, who serves on the YWCA board, and also a really amazing keynote, sort of, by Camille Levy from Glendale Healthy Kids. So she was something else. Nelson Neo, our partner on many different occasions from Shield Self-Defense, also presented a 10-minute sort of summary women's self-defense class at the interim for the march itself. Once again, the Commission partnered up with our Assembly member from the 43rd District, the Honorable Paul Krikorian, and Shield Self-Defense to provide 3 free workshops for in Glendale. The series itself is larger. It covers his entire district, so in Burbank as well. The 3 sessions were very well attended, with increasing enrollments every time. Total units of service that were provided to the community were 70 people, 57 of them brand new attendees. So there was some numbers provided there. 44 people in the city attended at least one of the sessions. We had 10 people who attended at least 2 sessions and 3 people who came to all 3 of our sessions. During April, received a call from Path Achieve Glendale as well, and on May 7th, as part of kind of a leftover of SAM, the commission arranged for Nelson to go out and do a self-defense training for the residents and the staff of Path Achieve Glendale. And it did so with great acclaim. So one of the things that will be coming back for the Commission's consideration is that they've also requested a longer-term partnership to train the residents of Path Achieve Glendale, because they felt it was so worthwhile and so empowering for the residents there to really get a sense of how to defend themselves and also to start the process of feeling empowered in their own skin. April 22nd was Denim Day in Glendale, and that's our Fashion with a Purpose. The Commission also hosted, for the 3rd year running, Dollars for Denim. And as a result of the consistent and incredible generosity of the city employees, over 220 of them participated in our campaign this year, raising about $1,100 for the work of Peace Over Violence in the community, who's been absolutely consistent partner in the work of anti-violence for the Commission since the beginning. Of course, a former member was on the board, so we had really close ties there. That was it for Sex Assault Awareness Month.
Commission comments?
I just wanted to also, may I add to Ms. Haddad's comments regarding SAM, as I wanted to congratulate our student commissioner who went to the city and made a very great presentation, a wonderful presentation to the City Council on April 7th about the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So, thank you, Jill.
Any other commissioners? I have to say that these events were fabulous, and I want to thank City Councilwoman Laura Friedman and her husband for attending the march. I thought it was really great that this was one of the first events that she attended as City Councilwoman, so I thank her very much. The women that came to the self-defense class were enthusiastic, and there were so many of them. I mean, we filled the rooms. It was just great. All 3 sessions were wonderful, and it's the Sexual Assault Awareness Month events are fabulous, and every year they grow in numbers. And it's just, I can't wait till next year again so that we can do bigger programs and better programs. It was just really great, and I congratulate everybody that had a part in it, and I thank the commissioners that attended and saw what great programs were put on. Next item, Ms. Haddad.
Next item on the agenda is 5B3, an update on the City of Glendale Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day in 2009. You heard from Ms. Rosie Akopian from the Human Resources Department. It was an incredible day, I think, for all the participants. Each one of you has been gifted with a DVD of the program that the kids got to experience that day. We had over 130 kids register for the event. On a happy note, the $250 that were allocated by the Commission, we completely reserved. We didn't need to spend, we actually didn't spend any of that money at all, so it's still in the account. And that's my report for Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day. So it was wonderful, actually. It was a great event. Taking up Commissioner Lamelle's suggestion, the pictures were all digital this year, not Polaroid. So we have them posted.
Oh, good. Thank you.
It was a great event.
Okay, next item.
Agenda item 6, Commissioner and staff comments.
Okay, we'll go around the dais. Commissioner Lamelle.
I'd first like to say that Ms. Haddad, it has been a great experience working with you, and we will miss you. But you're close by, so I'm sure we'll have to tap into your wealth of information down the road. I want to certainly welcome our newest addition, and that's Christine, and looking forward to working with her as well. I want to congratulate Commissioner Sobey on her award that she'll be receiving on Thursday, the Diamond Award for Achievement in the Arts. That's fantastic, and we certainly enjoy your column, Society column, every Wednesday. Anything else? I think that this was a good meeting. We got a lot accomplished, and it was probably the longest meeting we've had. So thanks for your patience, and we'll just continue to provide us the best service we can.
Mr. Manasarian?
Thank you. My sentiments are the same as Commissioner Lamel's. It's a bittersweet kind of a moment to see Ms. Haddad leave. You've been great, and I think all of us we've really appreciated your knowledge, your dedication to the Commission, what you've done so far in all these years, and we're certainly going to miss you. And we wish you luck in your new endeavors, and whatever you take on, you're going to be great at it, we're sure. And welcome, Ms. Baboumian. We look forward to working with you, and we're excited to have you on board, so welcome. Also, I wanted to make an announcement as a board member of Glendale Healthy Kids that we're going to have a fun fundraiser called A Taste of Downtown Glendale. It's going to be this Wednesday, May 13th, and we will be wearing wristbands, walking down Brand Boulevard, tasting all the good food of 31 different restaurants on Brand. And I encourage all of you to attend. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. It's a community event. It really brings the people together, a community together, and it helps a great cause, which is our kids in the Glendale area. The tickets are $25. They're $25 for adults and $10 for children. They're being sold at Alex Theaters, but I also do have tickets here for all the commissioners, so, I have them here, right here. So I encourage all of you to attend. It's a great event. You'll be very happy to do so. So thank you.
Mr. Pillsbury?
Ditto to the first two commissioners on Ms. Haddad. You will be sorely missed, and we look forward to working with you, Christina. On the note of health, I wanted to remind everybody out there that this week is National Bike to Work Week.
So this.
Yes, so I bike to our meeting. Biking is a great way to get healthy, to save money from gas, and save on pollution. If you can't bike to work, you can bike around the neighborhood. So it's fun, and try it.
Prevent osteoporosis.
That's true.
Commissioner Sobey.
I believe we will be seeing Ms. Haddad next month, right? So we get to give our best wishes to you all over again.
Yes.
Right. Also, everybody turn out for these Diamond Awards. Thursday, May 14th at 6 o'clock, Embassy Suites Hotel. Our newest councilwoman, Laura Friedman, made the importance of arts in Glendale a real important part of her platform. And I think we should support the idea of ongoing and more arts in our city.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, I'm going to hold my goodbye for next month. But likewise, we really want to acknowledge all the help of Ms. Haddad and look forward to working with Ms. Christine Baboumian. And congratulations, especially to my dear friend over here. I don't know how many more awards she can collect, but I know with each and every award that she gets, she really represents the commission well. So congratulations on that. And last April 26, Commissioner Lamel and I were invited to attend Mayor Villaraigosa's and the LA Workforce Systems Collaborative and a reception for Honorable Hilda Solis, our U.S. Department of Labor Secretary. I know she's called Madam. And it's an organization, it's a multi-private, public, government partnership to address the employment and educational needs of our low-income communities. And they're really to be commended for the work that they're doing in terms of, creating jobs for the future workforce of our community, and also for addressing green technology issues and the leadership that our local officials are doing for that. And also, FABAG had a wonderful mixer last April 29, and it was attended by a lot of the city officials and also local and business people, professional people, and we're really privileged to have that partnership with them, and especially because of FABAG's new partnership also that we're going to be making an announcement soon with the U.S. Navy Department. So we're really very proud of that.
Commissioner Malakian?
I wanted to mention last Monday, me and Chair Devine, we went to Pathachiva and we helped serve food and volunteer. And I thought it was a really great opportunity. And I hope that my school or my club at school will also look into helping them out and providing food for them, hopefully once a month. So I'm kind of hoping to bring that up. I thought it was really great. And I also wanted to thank Ms. Haddad for everything. You're superwoman. You really are an inspiration, and I wish you the best of luck.
Mr. Maricut?
Miss Haddad, I'm in love with you. And I don't know how you do it, but you always enlighten me with all the words you use are like SAT words that you just blurt out with such like chic, and you're just teeming with such like fashionable sense. Like every day I see you with a cute outfit on, and I'm like, how are you both cute and smart? And you just work it, girl. And I also wanted to congratulate Commissioner Walker for being nominated as Philanthropist of the Year by LA Business Journals last May 5 at the Biltmore Hotel, so that's awesome. And also to Commissioner Sobey for her award, but unfortunately I won't be able to make it because I have a junior retreat. And also, I kind of love those cutthroat debates you guys had today. Those are awesome. How you guys manage with such diplomacy, that's really cool. And looking forward to next month and to working with you too. You seem like you have a lot of fashion sense and a lot of
That's important criteria.
Yeah.
Is that it? Staff comments? Any?
Only one. I think I'm going to follow Commissioner Walker's lead and save my goodbyes till next month. But thank you, Commissioner Marcotte, for the glowing fashion recommendation. I should put that in my resume.
Now I'm depressed because I try so hard.
No, you achieved.
Okay, my closing comments. I was fortunate to go to the one of the grand openings of the Verdugo Mental Health Healthcare Facility on Colorado, and the amazing thing about this facility, Children's Services and Adult Family Services, they see 500 children a week. And that's with family problems, teenage problems. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place. They are federally funded, but the luncheon was for those organizations in the community that help fund their programs. So I just want you to know that they're having a tile painting party on Saturday, July 11th. That's really in the future, but they want kids to come and paint tiles, and they're going to decorate with the tiles. So that's a really great thing. It's from 10 to 1 on July 11th. Commissioner Manasarian and I were honored to attend the Armenian Festival at the Civic Auditorium. As usual, it was well attended, it was fun, the food was great, and they always treat us so well. And that's a fabulous group of women that work so very, very hard in this community for a lot of people, a lot of women here and around the world. So I want to thank them. YWCA Legacy Luncheon, attended that. It was amazing. Huge luncheon, but the important thing was 5 wonderful women were honorees, and every woman in the place at the luncheon was a role model, was a sensational woman who they all give their time to this community, and they were an inspiration to me, and I only hope to one day achieve put in as many hours as they have volunteering. It's wonderful. Path Achieve, that was a special occasion that we participated in on Monday, and I want to put a thank you out to Jim Scarantino for donating the food and helping us out when we needed it. So I encourage everybody out there, if you have food at a luncheon or a dinner or anything, just take it over to Path Achieve. The people appreciate it so much over there. Lana, you know that you're the greatest, and I'll miss you, and I'm not going to say any more tonight. I'll say it next week, but
Next month.
next month, yeah. I even hate to think, but I'm looking forward to working with Christine Baboumian as well. After going to the luncheon, I only have the YWCA luncheon. I want to leave everybody with this comment, and I've seen it in Lana's office so many times, and it is just fabulous. Go forward and do well, and better yet, go forward and do good. And with that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I so move.
A second? This meeting is adjourned at 9:05.